Hope you all are doing well. Hope it's been a good day for you all. My name is Dave Burke. I am Director of Recruiting for RGP. We're a global consulting firm. I'm the Director of Recruiting for Carolina practice, here in North and South Carolina. I'm here today because a large part of our business is working with project managers. Our information management is our largest vertical. For us, it's program project managers. And PMP is the sexiest certification in our minds. So thanks for having me today. I'm here to introduce Mr. Juan Flowers. Juan is Managing Partner, Educational Technology Consultant for FlowJ Technology and an Adjunct Professor at John C. Smith University in Charlotte. You ever seen President Taft's chair?
I have.
Do you all know about this? This is President Taft. He's kind of a big man. He's a very big man. And he came down for Mech Deck Day, which used to be a really big deal, right? And like 100,000 people come to bands and stuff. And they built a special chair for President Taft when he came here because they didn't want him to sit down and break it. And you can see it. It's John C. Smith, beautiful things.
Absolutely.
Sorry, that's not one.
No, you're fine. No,
So,
no thunder stolen. We're good.
Yeah. Yes. So Mr. Flowers is honors college graduate of John C. Smith, where he earned his Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science and Information Systems and Mathematics. In 2010, he graduated cum laude with a Master's of Arts degree in Learning Technologies at Pepperdine University in Malibu?
Yeah, absolutely.
Malibu, California.
Absolutely.
Please join me in welcoming Mr. Flowers.
Hey, welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
All right, there we go. So, as Dave mentioned, I'm Juan Flowers. Today, I just wanted to talk about just different strategies in regards to effective and strategic training. The theme is going to be similarly around, see no evil, hear no evil, and say no evil. Okay. So, just a little bit about myself, primarily, as Dave mentioned. Wow, yeah, that's a different dude. No, I'm just kidding. But generally, in most cases, there's three quotes up here that I wanted to share with you. Primarily is, don't let your origin determine your destiny. The second one is learning is living. And then the third quote, primarily since I enjoy cycling, is by a gentleman by the name of Marshall Major Taylor. For those who may or may not know who Major Taylor was. Generally, he was an American cyclist, generally for a stint of 10 years. He was the 1 miler champion on the cyclist. And generally, during his time, he would be equivalent to like your Greg Louganis of modern day cycling. And his quote was, "Modesty should be typical of the success of a champion." So generally when you're training or you're trying to plan your training, you want people to feel like they belong there and you want them to feel like a champion. Okay? So I'm originally from Fayetteville, North Carolina. For some, they may call it Fayetteville because it is a military town. Fayetteville is known to be home of the 82nd Airborne and also the Green Beret or Special Forces. If you didn't know, this nice little fact, there's a company named Salty. So how many of y'all like sports or cheer for a sports team? Okay. So generally when you see the championship team get their t-shirt, a lot of times that t-shirt came from Fayetteville. Salty is like the #1 producer of those championship t-shirts. And they come from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Okay. As far as my education, I'm proud to say I am a Golden Bull of John C. Smith University. Graduated in 1994. Again, computer science, computer engineering with a minor in mathematics. As far as my advanced degree, it's from Pepperdine University in Malibu, California, as well as their West Los Angeles campus. And that was in 2010. It's hard to believe 5 years has went by that fast. My classmates on Facebook were just reminding us when we actually received our physical degree in the mail. And so that time goes by fast. As far as my professional experience, primarily, my wife and I, we've started FlowJ in 2004. And with that, I've been a managing partner and a training strategist to where we actually provide technical solutions for different clients throughout the country, whether they're small to medium-sized businesses or generally, corporate companies. I've also had some experiences, as well as currently right now, I serve as an adjunct professor at Johnson Smith, to where I teach computer science and computer engineering to freshmen, as well as some of the upperclassmen who feel like they're going to skip through my class. Okay? So imagine, freshmen, they come in, they're excited, and they're like, oh, wow, what are we going to learn today? So generally, that's how it is, right? You want to make sure that you gain that excitement, you gain that engagement. Whether you are the trainer, the facilitator, or the person who actually came up with the documentation to be delivered. The other experiences, I've actually taught in the classroom here at CMS at Fieldberry Academy from 2012 to, 2009 to 2012, to where I've done IT as well as business educator over there, to where, again, one of those areas where, one of the most rewarding positions of being an educator, but may not always be the most compensated. To where we, educators generally provide where all majors begin. Your interest is generally sparked by what? An educator, your teacher, your professor. So just saying in that regards, it's well rewarding. And then last but not least, as you see up here, I spent a decent amount of time at Microsoft for about 16 years. So some of the products that you may have used or seen, chances are I probably developed it or had some part of it. So my experiences with them, I've had stints here in Charlotte, Seattle, as well as New Glasgow, Nova Scotia. Anyone ever been to Nova Scotia? Warmest place on earth, right?
And I let it go one time.
Yeah, but just those times I went up there, of course, was during the winter. So imagine that. Here we get ice, we threaten their ice, we're like, okay, everything shuts down, right? Up there, it can snow 2 feet, 1 hour it's already clear. You're like, what? But think about it. They have that environment. They know what's going to happen. Here, we're not built for that, per se. Okay? Now, one thing I wanted to share with you all real quick. If by any chance you have questions, okay? This will be your pass. In other words, by all means, we'll have some fun and we're going to engage today. Tell me your name, sir. Andrew. So, Andrew, if you had a question to solve Frisbee, you would have the floor. You would be able to ask your question. I don't want you all to hold your questions to the end. I want you to feel free to ask. And if there's someone across the room, let's say, what's your name, sir? Lee. So if Lee has a question, you can either walk it to him or just toss it to him. Make sure Lee's watching. I don't want him to claim workers' comp, right? For PMI or try to swing by it because he didn't see it. Okay? So by all means, that's the way you want to ask your question. Okay? Are we clear on that? Yes. All right. Next, please. So things that are important to me: my faith, my family, my finances, and my friends. So as you see here, I believe in God. That's my faith. My family, we're at a nice little outing, enjoying the sunshine and so forth. Finances, can't go wrong with that. And then I'm out with my friends. These are things that are important to me. I'm hoping that even with you, there are some important F's in your life, generally, when it comes to you either presenting or just your values. Because every time you do a presentation, you want to make sure you come up with some type of value, some type of return of investment. So generally, that's, these are some things I want to just kind of share and kind of personalize and kind of allow me to be transparent with you during this journey. All right, so you see here, and believe it or not, this is part of one of our family photos, actually, recent family photos. It just fit. When I saw it, I said, oh, this is perfect. So see here and say it your way. So as you all are noticing, how many of us have used PowerPoint before? Sure, that's generally everybody, right? How many of y'all are tired of using PowerPoint? Okay? No offense towards Microsoft, I mean, granted, they establish a standard, that's generally what people are groomed to. What we're using today is actually present. How many of y'all have seen present? 1, 2 people? Okay. So, your thoughts about present, real quick. What's your thoughts about present?
I haven't personally used it. I've just seen, I think, maybe 2 different presentations of people who did use it.
Okay.
I'd be interested in learning more, although I'm a little given to InDesign, and that's my hobby.
Okay, great. And your name, I'm sorry?
Amy Jo.
Amy Jo. Right.
It's a lot more, it's user-friendly, you just plug and go, and it's a lot more active from what I've seen.
Absolutely. It's a lot more dynamic. That'd be probably the better, worst word to use. PowerPoint, they get into a point where now they can do some dynamic transitions and so forth, but Prezi, for the most part, is very dynamic. The other benefit of it is it's web-based. So, for example, if I need to make a change to my slide, I actually don't have to worry about turning in a slide deck. I can just give you a link, and that'll represent my slide deck for that moment. But if I need to make a change, I can just go online and make a change, and dynamically it will appear. Okay. The other thing is just kind of a benefit of Prezi. On my phone, I even have a Prezi app. So in most cases, I can even present from my phone. Same slide deck, but just present it from your smartphone. So please note that, not to say I'm advertising Prezi, but this is just a tool that I've used for past five years, to where it seems to be a little more fluent, a little more attractive. And again, using the word dynamic, a lot more dynamic, okay? But here, as you see my 3 sons, they wanted to be part of the presentation. I said, this is the best way to include them. They already had it set for me. So one thing I want you to understand is when you're creating your presentations, or to make it a successful or an effective presentation, you want to be able to say it like you want it. You want to be able to, that people will hear it like you want it. And more importantly, you want people to, see it visually. Because as learners of technology, or learners in a training environment, you got to be able to visually see what's going on. If I didn't have any visuals and I'm just talking to you, how interesting would that be? Be pretty boring, right? You'd be like, what are we talking about today? There's nothing, I can't visually see what you're talking about. A lot of times, psychologically, there are times where I can give you a training document that is in color, that's highly technical, and you would remember it more closely than an easy document in black and white. Okay, so our brains are psychologically developed to realize that color is an attractive generator for us to remember. And so when you add that to a dynamic presentation tool such as Prezi, then that adds more to the value of investment. Okay? Not only for yourself as a presenter or as a trainer or as a facilitator, but also the people who are attending. All right? Okay. So this is what I want you to do. We're just going to take 2 minutes. Within these 2 minutes, I want you to pair up with one person, whether you know them or not, and I want you to get to know who that person is. This is your opportunity to kind of network, if you haven't done so already. Now, within that quick little network session, or within this 2 minutes, the key things that I want you to ask are, what's their hometown? What's their area of expertise? Do they have a favorite sports team? Is there a favorite subject in high school that they have? Is there a favorite color? And then why did you choose to attend today's session? Okay? 2 minutes. Pair with one person. Okay? And what I'm gonna do, and this is the other thing I'm gonna have you to do. I'm gonna give you the opportunity to not just introduce yourself, but primarily introduce the other person. So if you need to write it down who you're meeting, that's fine. If you need to get the details, write it down. If you need to put it on your smartphone, put it in your smartphone. The key thing I want you all to understand is there's a specific reason why I'm giving you these questions. So take this time, again, this is a quick 2 minutes. Pair with someone, one person. And the questions you want to ask them, you want to, of course, get their names. Get their name. Introduce yourself. Let's see, is everybody paired with one?
I'm going to take you.
Okay, that's fine. Come on. Well, this is what you can do. You can actually pair with another group. Yeah.
It's first,
When I live in there.
Like I said, just a simple 2 minutes. Like Jackie, you could have did this too.
I'm trying to be quiet.
All right, time check. We got 1 minute left. 1 minute left. All right, 30 seconds left. All right, 15 seconds left.
I would say T. Yeah. And where are the dates?
All right. Let's take time. All right, real quick, let's get a pulse check. Did everybody get a chance to exchange information or you need more time?
Good.
We're good.
Is everybody good?
And nice to meet you.
Is everybody good? You guys good? Okay. All right. Now that you have the opportunity to meet someone, who's going to be brave enough to introduce, to stand up together and you're going to introduce the other person? All right. Here we go. Very good. Let's get it.
Hi, everyone. This is David.
Hey,
And
David.
his hometown is Charlotte.
Okay.
Wow.
That's what I said. Wow. Right.
His area expertise is IT transition management.
Okay.
And his favorite sports team is Buffalo Bills. Any of them?
Oh, wow. Okay.
I like it. These are.
His favorite subject in high school was music. Can you say? Okay. Favorite color green. And he's here for the PMI.
Okay.
So similarly, my partner here is Teresa. She's from Greensboro. Favorite color is green. That's all ironically enough. She's here for PDUs as well and looking to get out of here as soon as we're out.
Okay.
Her favorite sports team are the Spurs. And her favorite subject in high school was English.
Yeah.
So welcome, Teresa.
All right. Very good.
This is Lee. His hometown is Fanwood, New Jersey. His area of expertise is engineering project management. His favorite sports team are the New York Yankees. His favorite subject in high school was math. His favorite color is blue. We didn't get into the specifics of which flavor of blue, but blue. And he is attending today to improve his presentation skills.
Very good.
This is Rich. He's originally from Chicago, and his area of expertise is operational risk management. His favorite sports team is the Charlotte Roller Girls.
Who doesn't like Charlotte? Come on!
Roller derby, huh? Okay.
Roller Girls, yeah.
Okay.
Just at San Francisco Bay Bombers.
All right. Okay.
His favorite subject in high school was math. His favorite color is blue, and he's also here to improve his project presentation skills.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. All right. One more group. One more pair.
Sure.
All right.
This is Amy Jo. She's an urban designer up in the University Research Park area. Her hometown is Charlotte. Her favorite sports team is the 49ers. and that's the UNCC.
Tonight, y'all.
Her favorite subject in high school was math, and her favorite color is green, and she's here to communicate well, is what she wants to learn how to do. She thinks that's really important, and this is the way to get there.
Okay, very good, thank you.
This is Randy, and he is a project manager at TIA and Track4, also in the university research area. And his hometown is Lexington. His favorite sports team is the Bruins.
Mhm.
Right? And, you know, he didn't have a favorite subject in high school, so I was just going to default to recess, but, you know. He seemed agreeable to that. His favorite color is blue, and he chose to attend today's session.
Okay, that's fair. Very good. All right. So, David, Teresa, and then Rich and Lee, right? And Randy and Amy Jo, correct? Okay. All right. So, since you all eagerly participated, you're a little bit. Let's do this, let's be fair. Those 6 of y'all come on up, and y'all pick what you want from here. I don't want to just hand you, pick what you want.
Thank you. Hey, Juan, can I ask a question?
Yes.
This was not the purpose of the exercise, but I found this really interesting. That we had multiple people that their favorite color was green and their favorite subject in high school was math.
Mhm.
So, I mean, like, how many maths do we have in the room? I just
Right.
find that interesting, because what, 3 people said that out of the 6?
Right.
Yours was math?
It was math,
Okay.
right?
And then, I mean, I don't understand the color green unless that means we're left brain, but yet we're people persons, and
Well-
that's green, I don't know.
So here's one thing I want,
Interesting.
and that is interesting. So green is a color of life. And you know it's combined with the colors of blue and yellow. So
Right.
blue is a color of trust, and yellow is a color of excitement. So some form of life, you know, we all have a, you know, when you say you like green, that's kind of like you enjoy life.
Okay.
With a little of trust, you know.
A little trust.
With a little trust and a little bit of excitement combined. So just keep that in mind. Little did y'all know if y'all looked in there, I left a little token. The reason why I gave you all not just the prize, but also $1, usually I feel like people are an investment. So when you train people, you want to make sure you invest in them. Okay? Primarily, generally, you know, you can spend that on whatever you need, you know, just coffee or whatever it is. But just understand, it's an investment that you have to look into how you present and also the people who you present to. Okay, that's how you get your return of investment of value. Anytime you want people to come and present to you or train you, you need to make sure you get a value out of that. If you don't get a value, then you're like, okay, we kind of missed the gate, or we may have wasted our time, or I could have been doing something else. And so that's one thing that I want to share with you, just kind of not only to get to know who is in the room, but primarily for you to understand that each of us are an investment, or each of us is a shareholder, okay, of our learning. So please understand that. Okay, go ahead and advance. So with that being said, objectives. So generally, with all presentations, you have some type of objectives. I also call them kind of like tips for success. And so with your objectives or the tips for success, the key things is you want to make sure that your presentations are very simple and easy to read, first of all. Has anybody ever witnessed something that they couldn't read or it wasn't legible? How did you feel about it?
Frustrated.
Frustrated, right? Because it's just like if I'm grading papers. If I can't read it, I'm marking it, right? Because I'm not a cryptographer, right? I'm not, my eyes aren't always designed to kind of figure out different characters or codes, right? But that's something to just keep in mind with your, whether it's whatever form of the presentation you want to use. You want to make sure it's always simple and easy to read. The second thing always is clear and learning, clear learning objectives. So if you're gonna have some type of training, you wanna make sure, okay, it's clear, concise, and straight to the point of what you should obtain from the lesson. Third thing is,
I'm sorry. Say that again.
so if you're, for your learning objectives, anytime you have learning objectives, you wanna make sure it's clear and concise of what you should be learning.
Okay.
At the, by the end of this presentation, there should be some things that you are able to pull from
Okay.
that we covered or we talked about. Yes, sir.
One of the things with like Toastmasters is if you present it, say, tell them what you're gonna tell them, and then tell what you told them, just that way it kind of sticks.
Okay. Third thing, friendly and engaging. So far, we've been very friendly, we've been engaging. Think about it, if I didn't present anything or didn't give you opportunity to meet each other, we were just in here talking, you'd be like, okay, it's time to move on. What else we gonna talk about? If you don't engage your audience will either go to sleep on you, or they're working on something else. They're playing with their phone, they're playing with their laptop, they're daydreaming, they're not focused on you. As the facilitator or the person who's actually presenting, you want to make sure that all eyes are on you. Not because of my bow tie, right? Not because of my suit, not because of my appearance, but primarily because you should be able to hear me, and also it should just resonate in your mind. This is what, this is the things that you want to learn, and this is the things that you're going to witness today. Lastly, avoid lectures. So a lot of times, if you see me moving around, it's because I'm not trying to stand behind a podium. That's not my style. I'd rather be kind of up close and personal, because when you present, sometimes you want people to feel like if you were around family and friends, how would you present? You want to feel comfortable, correct? So if you don't feel comfortable with people who you're presenting from, may or may not be a successful presentation. So you want to make sure that you feel comfortable. And one of those ways of feeling comfortable is avoiding a lot of lecturing. Okay?
One of my pet peeves are people who put everything they're going to say on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they read the screen, and why do they need you if you got every single point on the screen?
Exactly. Because we all should be able to read. And it's kind of like we were talking about this from the previous discussion about status meetings, right? If I'm going to a status meeting to obtain a status, and you already sent me the status report, why am I attending this meeting? Now, if we're gonna make some decisions, yeah, we need to make some decisions in the meeting, but not for status. So it's kind of the same thing. And then you bring up an excellent point. So you always want to make them easy to read, and again, you want to make sure you see no evil. Okay? In other words, no chicken scratch, no illegible writing, it can't be all on top of each other to where you can't read it. So of course, you want to make sure things are clear, concise, choose a consistent font. Have you all seen presentations where they have multiple fonts?
Yeah.
And multiple colors.
Multiple fonts, multiple colors, right? And you can lose your audience just like that. Especially if my favorite color is green, and you don't have green up here, you're like, what am I gonna do?
I'm talking about like, they'll have yellow background and then have yellow letters.
Right.
It just gets lost in the background.
Right, everything's blended in.
But that's one of the most frustrating things when they don't take into account where they're presenting at. So if he would have used a light font and a light blue background in this light, it would have killed it.
Yes.
Absolutely. So color and contrast. I mean, a lot of times I do talk about colors, or kind of give you a brief history of what these colors mean. As a presenter, or as a facilitator, or even as a strategist with training, you have to know what these colors mean. What colors are actually going to, are going to attract you to pay attention. Because like we told you before, blue is a color of trust. So if the information is on in front of you, you trust that information is accurate. And that's what your mind is, if you're looking at it, you're not just looking at it as, okay, this is the information that's in front of me, but this is the information that I should trust that's in front of me. Other things, limit text. Again, there's times where you see a slide or a presentation where all you see is just text bulked together, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, I can't read all that. Why don't you just give us handouts, right? Light colored backgrounds, again. depending on the compare and contrast of colors or the blending of colors, you want to watch your backgrounds, and more importantly, you want to use some type of darker colored text. Primarily because in most cases, again, you can see it better. Whether it's in a presentation where the light is semi-dim or if it's completely dark. All right, explaining your learning objectives. Again, this is where you don't want to speak no evil. So you want to make everything that you want known clear, present the information in multiple ways. So although we have a presentation, we also have an activity to engage in, okay? There'll be some other things that I'll show up here to kind of increase our participation or our attention span, per se, in regards to multiple ways. Now, today we're in a classroom session, but there are definitely multiple ways in which you can present. Whether it's in a classroom session where it's face-to-face, or primarily hybrid or blended, where it can be face-to-face and online, or primarily online. I think in today's society, technology allows us to span across and reach to everyone around the world based on the different ways in which we can learn and also hold sessions. So generally, being able to understand how to obtain this information and being able to share and disperse the information to others who need to learn or who are paying attention, per se. Generally, you got to have different methods. One method doesn't fit all. Just like when we choose clothes, not all sizes fit all. Correct? So that's something to just kind of keep in mind. Learning styles don't fit all, so you have to be able to assess that within your attendees as well. Other things primarily is summarizing. Sometimes you just got to make sure you summarize the information, because if you give everybody so much information, just try to be as succinct and straight to the point. Get to your positive points. Don't drag it all day and just stay there. Make sure you summarize collectively what you want to say as the main point. Okay. Hearing no evil. So you definitely want to convey the information clearly. But along with relaying the information clearly, or conveying the information clearly rather, make it easy to understand. Granted, I know we're speaking English, but sometimes I may have to interpret certain things into different languages. Spanish, simplified Chinese, traditional Chinese, German, just to name a few languages. Not that I speak them all fluently, but sometimes you have to have partnerships to where you have to have translators to translate your presentation. Or certain tools like Prezi, they can set it up to where if it's in English, it can also convert your whole presentation to a different language of choice. So that's the great thing about some of these web tools as well. The other things, using headers, using relevant graphics. Have y'all seen presentations where the graphics don't relate to what the talking point is? And you're like, why would you even do that? And it's not the attendee's fault, it's just like, why? It doesn't have any relevancy. I mean, okay, if you're talking about NASCAR, I shouldn't see Carolina Panthers logo. I should probably expect maybe a Jeff Gordon or, Dale Earnhardt Jr., just to name a few people. I shouldn't expect Carolina Panthers. So make sure your graphics and topics are relevant to what you're speaking about. Last thing, of course, is avoiding clutter. So that's where we're talking about having so much text on the screen to where it's like, okay, this is driving me insane. So you want to make sure that you avoid that clutter. So again, just make it easy to understand, use headers, make sure your graphics are relevant. More importantly, avoid that clutter. So I want you to kind of pay attention to this next little clip. You go ahead and see if you recognize it.
Do you speak any English?
Turn it up.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
And then he smiles, right? You can leave it there. Y'all know where this clip came from?
Yeah.
What movie?
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour. Okay. So this is the point where Chris Tucker's character is welcoming Jackie Chan's character, and he assumes that Jackie Chan does not understand English. This is the same way we assume that when people are in our audience that they understand everything we say. So we want to make sure that we don't assume anything. We want to make sure that things are very clear and concise. And if anything, inquire. If you have to inquire beforehand to know what type of audience you're about to present in front of, do so. There's nothing wrong inquiring. You know, if half the people that you're presenting from, you know, speak English, and then you may need an interpreter for a remaining bit, or vice versa, then that's something that you need to do your research on. Be aware of. If I'm going to, I'll give a perfect example. If I'm going to India, if I say yes, they're doing like this. That's their yes, okay? But to us in America, that's no. So understand, you have to understand cultures, you have to understand, your audience, but primarily, don't assume, that everyone is exactly like you are. And I think sometimes as trainers or facilitators or people who develop training, we assume that we have all the answers for everybody in the room, and we don't. Okay, but other things. It's probably the number one bullet that should be up front, but I had to kind of save it near the end. Present your slides in your own words. Because if you don't know what's on your slide, then your audience may not know what's on your slide, but some people in your audience may know what your slide is because you took their words, unfortunately. Hopefully you didn't, but sometimes you'll notice some people, they'll be in the audience and they'll say, wait a minute, that looks very familiar. I wonder where he got that from. I wonder where she got that from, right? And it's because, they pulled it probably off your website. Or they pulled it off of some reference in, some other reference material. But you want to make sure your slides have your own words in them. 1, so you don't get sued. 2, you're not plagiarizing. 3, it's authentic. And more importantly, 4 and 5 is, is legitimate. And so that, not only is it more so, it's kind of like more of an honor code for training and strategically planning this. Some people say, yeah, I'll borrow. But if you're gonna borrow, make sure you give credit to what references or sources you pulled from. Don't just claim some of your words are your own. It's just like, how many of us had to write papers? If not now, later, right? Yeah. If your professor saw certain things were plagiarized, what would they do? 0. It wouldn't be just marked up, it'd be 0. Even if it was just 1 line. I mean, it's sad, but that's the way it is. If it's not your words or you didn't quote or provide that source, then how can you validate that the information in your paper or in your slides is yours? So please understand that. Next slide. All right. So again, going back to the summarized portion. So generally, with all the things that we talked about, we all have to make sure that we summarize key details or summarizing back to the key objectives of why we're having training. So again, you want to make sure each slide is, 1, easy to read and understand. Secondly, visually clear. Thirdly, more importantly, engaging. If the content is not engaging or if you're not interested in the training, you don't get a value out of it. The company or the companies who have sent you to a training, they're not going to get a value out of it. So you want to make sure that the content is engaging and it's clear and concise to where you can read, but more importantly, that the content is relevant to you and that you obtain something from it. Okay? Go ahead. So again, just to reiterate back, we were talking about the types of training. So again, you're talking about the blended hybrid training. Just a show of hands, how many of you all appreciate or have been through like a hybrid or blended training? Show of hands. Okay. So what that means is face-to-face as well as it's online. So in other words, we meet face-to-face, but then parts of it is also online. Okay. Online training, everybody's been through online training or witnessed it? Okay. And then face-to-face, everybody's used to the traditional face-to-face. A lot of times in this day and age, primarily since technology is so available to us, it makes it easier for us to do blended, hybrid, or online. Think about as many colleges and universities back, let's say 20 years ago, didn't offer online courses to where you look at it 20 years now and and beyond. How many colleges and universities offer online courses. So you can obtain advanced degrees or even your, associate's bachelor's degree, primarily undergrad degree, that is. So now, just about every college and university in most cases, there's not one that I can really kind of think of unless it's something that just started up that doesn't provide some type of form of a blended or online training or online course. The days of face-to-face is not outdated, because some people still prefer that face-to-face interaction, because that's what they're traditionally used to. But again, depending on the learner, a lot of times they would prefer a blended hybrid or online, to where they don't even have to meet with a professor. They just prefer to say, hey, for the convenience, I work 8 hours a day, and I can take a course, go to a class for an hour or two, or sometimes 3 hours, depending on what that course is. Write their paper, submit the paper, don't even have to attend class not once. And then by the time it's time for them to graduate, they just show up for the graduation. So that's just something to just kind of think about. How you want to continuously, when you're strategizing and not only strategizing, I would say somewhat evangelizing the learning style or the training style, understand, what will be more beneficial not only for yourself as the facilitator or trainer, but what's going to also be beneficial for your audience or your attendees, rather. If you know that half your attendees generally are online learners, it makes sense to make it more so online and convenient for them than to try to force them to come to class. You'll lose your audience 75% of the time, guaranteed. So sometimes you may have to send out surveys ahead of time just to see, hey, what style would you prefer? Would you prefer you meet in class and online, strictly online, or do you prefer face-to-face? And then also, it also depends on the generation. So there are some of us, even if we were born in the 70s, some of us prefer face-to-face, some of us prefer online, because that's what we know. That's kind of like the way, how we want to go about it is online. Or if we have in video conferences. Because again, save us time on travel, save us costs to where we don't have to worry about booking flights, but it makes it very convenient for us to meet and to see face-to-face. So there are several different web tools out there. I'm pretty sure you've seen them. Also different management online courseware, Blackboard, just to name one, Moodle, just to name another. You have different tools such as, whether it's Link, or they call Skype, since Microsoft bought Skype. You have different Web Connect, you name it, they have it, okay? The next one. Some additional presentation software tools that I wanted to share with you. So today we talked about Prezi, but some other tools, if you haven't known about these, which are great. And these are also business standard, or starting to be business standard. GoAnimate is one of them. If you like cartoons or comics, that's how I was when I was growing up. GoAnimate is an easy way to where you can use the use of video and kind of more animation to actually go through different scenarios and training sessions. The other tool is Google Docs, because they have their way of where you can upload everything to the cloud and present as well. Third thing is SlideRocket. SlideRocket is very similar, it's web-based. Also allows you to still upload your full presentation slide from PowerPoint if you so choose, but in a more dynamic way of presenting it. And then last but not least, Slide Snack. I want to say Slide Shack, but Slide Snack.
How you spell Prezi?
Prezi is spelled P-R-E-Z-I. So P-R-E-Z as in zebra, I as in igloo. So if you go to Prezi.com, anybody who may have a .edu email address, you might have a .edu. So if you have an education email account, you can actually sign up for an educator license to where it gives you more dynamic tools than your traditional account. Now, mind you, Prezi is free and it's on the web, but if you have like a .edu email address, they'll give you some additional tools beyond just the standard account. But great tool to use, very dynamic as you have seen today. It's not static, it's very dynamic, a lot fluid. You can go back and forth. You can, like I said, you can control it from your smartphone. You can control it from the console. A lot of times you can also use tickers or the clickers rather to actually, present that way as well. Go ahead. Oh, did y'all need that again? I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Go back one, if you won't mind. Sorry about that. So just in case, again, just to reiterate, go Animate, Google Docs, Slide Rocket, and Slide Snack. I say that very quickly, right? Multiple times. So those are some ones that you may want to also look into. Because, like I said, not one tool fits all. Prezi, like I said, I like using Prezi. I've been using it for the past 5 years. I enjoy it. When I was first introduced to it, I was like, oh my goodness. Where have you been in my life, right? Nothing against PowerPoint. Because again, something to just keep in mind. PowerPoint has always been a business standard since it was first developed back in the early 90s. So that's just something to keep in mind. Other things I want to share with you all real quick before we actually go to the questions. So,
Yeah, I'll take a picture of
yeah.
it.
So the other thing that you may want to include within your presentations are visuals. Kind of like, just a show of hands. Some of you all used to like show and tell. Let's be honest, right? Show and tell was the coolest thing, right? And so a lot of times, even with the presentations, you guys do show and tell. So I'm just going to use a few examples here. The show and tell I'm going to show you today is more talking about storage. Okay? So, just show of hands. Some of y'all remember this.
Yeah.
All right. 5.25. It only has a 512 bytes. Not 512 megabytes, but just 512 bytes. In some cases, it used to have just the operating system on this one, and then you had the actual program on the other. Okay. Right now, this is probably used as a church fan, right? Or it could be used as a duster, to collect some dust, right? And put in the dumpster. So again, just want to pass this around. Not saying that all of us or none of us have seen it before, but just something to pass around. All right. Then they went to what? A little diskette, right? They either had the high density diskette or the double density diskette, right? So this is where a lot of programs and papers we used to save as well, okay? So a lot of times, imagine me showing this to my students right now, right? Some of them barely remember what, or may not even know what a landline is, right? But let alone showing them this type of stuff helps them visually understand history of technology, or where we were, and the capacities of how we, started from, okay? Compared to now, right? Go flash drive. So how do we go from a church fan to a solid state USB drive, right? With a larger capacity. So like I said, these are just, you ain't gotta pass this one. We already know this.
On their keyboard.
Yeah, but just understand that, low flash drive. Now, something else I wanted to share, and this is something that I probably will never auction or sell. So when I was talking about Microsoft, being there 16 years, so I was in Redmond from 1996 to 1999. And so this is when the internet was publicly pretty much available to everybody for the first time. You all remember Netscape? Mm-hmm. Okay. So Microsoft's competing product was Internet Explorer. So at the time, Netscape was winning, beating everybody to the punch in regards to allowing people to access the internet. So then until Internet Explorer 5 came out. And that's when the browser wars shifted to where Microsoft was the more popular browser then. And Netscape was kind of slowly fading away. So what I have in front of you, and I'll share with you, is this is actually a commemorative CD of Internet Explorer 5. On it is actually a signature by Bill Gates himself. When I worked with Microsoft, I was actually on the Internet Explorer team, helping to develop this product to ensure that the usability as well as the functionality of the browser actually worked. So if you type in www.charlotte.com, that's what it should bring up. You know, so that's just something to keep in mind. So this is actually a CD, and they cut it into a shape of Internet Explorer. So you could actually put it in your CD drive right now. It'll actually start the program. But what I'm trying to share with you is the reason why, again, the reason why I, have those different types of items is so that you can visually engage your audience so that they realize the validity of your story. If I just say, hey, I just work at Microsoft, you'd be like, yeah, okay, that's another company, Google is out there now, Oracle is out there, Facebook is out there, but if you understand kind of like the history of how now you have all these companies because of the Apple and Microsoft rivalries over the years. And everybody pushed everybody to improve their products, per se, okay? So just keep in mind, those are times that you can't turn back, but it's something that I can easily pass on to my sons to help them realize, that their father was involved with a historical product. And then the other question, I'm surprised y'all didn't ask this, or we will start to ask, well, have you ever met Bill Gates before? Yeah, on 3 different occasions. Not just for him to sign my CD, that's not even counting that. So the first time I met him, kind of like 30 minutes in the elevator, just introduced myself, and I was an intern. So I was probably one of the first interns here in Charlotte. And he came to visit, introduced myself, he met my, at the time it was Dr. Dorothy Kaiser Yancey, who was the president at the time. And he met her and, she kind of said, hey, my students out there working on your product, so working, at your site here in Charlotte. That's how I met him the first time, 30 seconds, just a quick little intro. The other times was more so being able to present kind of on the same stage with him, which is kind of cool. So imagine you being at the same show with him. Everybody's looking for him. They're not looking at me, right? But being able to kind of interact, and students see that even though we had a working relationship, I mean, granted, I can't say Bill Gates is my best friend, but I can say that he knows my name. And I've worked with him on different products and projects involving educating and helping students to learn, not only in the United States, but just worldwide. And then the third situation was more in a meeting to where we're making sure that our products were solid. And it wasn't a status meeting, it was a decision meeting. So those meetings got quite interesting. So I would have to provide like customer data to show why certain features need to be fixed, not later, but now, before we actually release this product. And so after I provided thousands and thousands of data to the whole team, and with customer information to tag along with it, now you look at all the execs and all the people who are who knew the code more so and who were testing the code and saying, hey, okay, how are we gonna fix this? So just keep in mind, I mean, again, it goes back to your origin does not determine what your destination, but on your way, enjoy the journey, okay? Enjoy the journey. You can go ahead and advance, and then we'll go to questions. So, who has a question? I'll toss it to you. It's a software. Oh, my fault. I didn't get there close enough. And you say your name is Jocelyn?
Jocelyn.
Okay.
Have you mentioned, you're interested in students. Have you presented to students internationally? And if so, can you talk about some of the challenges or benefits of doing so?
Okay. I have presented students internationally, primarily with students not only in Africa and India, but also in China. The challenge is time difference sometimes, right? Naturally, we live in different time zones. So coordinating that can be a little bit tricky because let's say if I'm meeting with students in Shanghai and we live here in Charlotte, they're actually 12 hours ahead of us. So right now, there's 3 in the morning compared to our 3 in the afternoon. So you have to figure out what's going to be the best time frame to meet everybody to where, let's say if it's 9 o'clock a.m. their time, it's 9 o'clock p.m. our time. So sometimes you have to kind of sacrifice your your time frame to accommodate others, since they are ahead of us. The other thing is language barriers. So that's where it's important to partner up with those who have expertise in translating. Because there's times where I can speak in English, but to them, the information is being translated in their natural language. So sometimes I don't have to worry about converting my whole presentation into a different language. I just need to just speak. And they have the built-in tools on their end to translate what I just said. So it kind of reminds me of like the model UN, right? Anytime a person speaks in their native tongue, it gets translated for them, for the different countries that are around the world represented at that meeting. Again, with children in Africa, there's been different projects to where you're figuring out how can you provide technology in areas that may not have electricity or may not have the resources. So there's a gentleman by the name of Seymour Papert who came out with the crank inexpensive PCs at the time. So those was like things that they would provide, and I know Bill Gates was participating in that, and some other big names as well, participating in something like that, to where certain areas you have to make sure that you're able to provide the means of how they can still get internet access, as well as the access to the technology. So those are some of the things that you have to kind of strategize and partner with the particular representatives from the countries, as well as just different local universities and colleges as well. Because a lot of the things sometimes you don't have to do the legwork. They've done it for you. And it makes it a whole lot easier to leverage what's already there if it's not there already. Other questions?
May I have just one more?
Sure, no problem.
Visuals, do you, is that something that somebody might find visual, like from the United States offensive in another country? Do you ever have?
Well, that's good. I think a lot of times when I do a presentation, I try my best to seek global advice. And what I mean by that is, if I have to find out what's offensive, I mean, I'm gonna do my research. There's no way I'm just gonna present without doing my research. Because like sometimes, I'll give you an example. Like, even with the Rush Hour video, you know, how Chris Tucker was talking to Jackie Chan that way. You know, if you watch the movie, you might say, well, dang, that's kind of harsh, right? But in the sense of that's a movie. And it's, you know, produced and it's copyrighted using YouTube. In order for them to even display public content, they have to go through a filter and approval anyway. So you have to understand that a lot of the content that's on YouTube, in most cases, has to go through an approval system prior to you even being able to use it. Because one thing, Prezi, and I'll just use Prezi for example. If Prezi suspects that the content is explicit or inappropriate, even though you provided the URL to it, it won't display it. It won't play it at all. So that's another thing to note, that there are several tools behind the actual presentation software that will automatically block certain content to prevent you being offensive to anyone. Other questions? Let's pass the frisbee around.
As far as getting rid of or doing away with certain things like the word, like or or things like that, do you have any suggestions on? I know a lot of that's out of nervousness.
Right. I think, and early on in my career, I was noticing myself saying and one thing I would highly suggest, and this is just something I think in most cases for anyone when you rehearse it, like I just just now, right? Rehearse yourself in the mirror, because you can actually look at your own facial expressions. Rehearse it in front of people who you trust. Because again, the other thing that you're going to do is you're going to rehearse it, or you're actually going to present it in front of people who you may not know. But again, if you're engaging and you encourage that trust, you're going to feel comfortable. Those are what they call the fillers. That's what they call the fillers. So you just want to make sure that your points are very succinct, straight to the point, to where you're not saying and so forth. But like I said, you definitely want to rehearse as much as possible. don't over-rehearse. And I know some people say, well, not what's over-rehearsing? Over-rehearsing to where your head hurts. Naturally.
Sound like it.
Right. So you just want to make sure you feel very comfortable, have a natural flow to where it doesn't sound so scripted. Right? You don't want to sound like a robot. You just want to make sure it just sounds natural.
Part of that though is if you join Toastmasters.
Yep.
And that's great because you get constructive feedback every week if you're presenting. And they have official rules. You're not familiar with Toastmasters. They have official people who would count your ums, your ahs, and you get critiqued heavily.
Yes.
And you will never ever listen to somebody present the same way again, because if they start umming and ahhing, you're just counting them as being distracted by it. So
Right.
it's really, the other thing on presenting is sometimes you have to put that bitmap up there that's gonna have something that people aren't gonna see in the back row. Windows, and I think iOS has the same thing where you can use the magnifier.
Mhm.
So if you're presenting, you can actually use it like a virtual magnifying glass on that part of the screen, which will enlarge it so people in the back row can see it for you.
Excellent point. But you can pass it.
Oh.
Oh, almost.
That's great. So my question is about, I don't know if it's content, length of the content, but these days we do have so much technology available to us that we probably, and especially if you're a telecommuter like me, you theoretically never need to leave the house.
Okay.
Because, training, your work, everything you can conduct remotely. So how do I determine if, based on either, like I said, content or the length of the content, whether or not I need to bring people together and present physically versus being able to deliver virtually? Because again, I'm a telecommuter.
Right.
And I can assure you that most of the time that my company presents something on a PowerPoint, I'm multitasking.
Correct.
So, I will admit my own guilt, and of course, we all know that other people are doing the same. So how do I either draw them in, the engagement part, or when do I just know that that's impossible, and this is important enough that I need to be face-to-face?
Okay, excellent question.
I guess that's multiple questions, but you
Right.
see where I'm going with that.
Absolutely.
How do I choose? Did we all come here today? Or
Right.
did we just watch you, via a WebEx?
Via WebEx, right. So a lot of times, the way I go about it, or the way I would suggest it, would be if there's going to be physical, if I know it's going to be more labs or more practice modules physically that I know we can't do online,
Sure.
then yes, that's how I would encourage us to come in.
Okay,
A lot of times, we do a lot of practice sessions
right.
that are physically, impossible to do online. Like if I need to build a computer, I'm just giving you that as an example. To actually sometimes see the core parts of the computer and to actually understand it, unless I'm gonna put it under a webcam or the actual display. Sometimes you're not gonna actually get all the intricacies or the details. Because some of these, even though they can magnify up to a certain amount,
Sure.
physically touching the motherboard compared to actually seeing it is different. Or physically understanding how to actually put a computer together in person is a whole lot different than watching some video clips or some video module clips to show you, okay, here's the exercise. You have all these parts online, and then you got to drag and drop. In a computer, a lot of times you can't drag and drop. So a lot of times, depending on your labs or depending on if it requires more practicality of you to where you physically have to touch something, then yes, you would come in. But if it's more like a presentation to where you're providing a bunch of facts, or you're streaming videos, or you're providing some type of form of multimedia, and you already gave them handouts, then a lot of times, yeah, you would just let it be online. Not just only for the convenience, but also for the effectiveness of the lesson. So that's just something to keep in mind. Because again, you can then ask your questions, in a forum, or even ask your questions while you're holding the session.
As I said, it's one thing to engage your audience.
Right.
What I do is I'm presenting online for half hour, especially as an hour presentation, do surveys every 10 or 15
Yep.
minutes, and then pops it up, and then you can see, okay, I got 100 people on, I got 15 people answering the call, answering the question. It tells you you lost like 95% of your audience, or 85% of your audience.
That's actually a good point. The survey.
It interrupts your audience enough where they kind of get frustrated and they start paying attention.
Right. And then also to Rich's point, just like today, y'all didn't know I was giving out, you all didn't know I was giving out a few goodies, right?
Sorry.
So, swag, right? If a student knows that, oh, if I'm gonna win an iPod or if I'm gonna win a certain prize, that also brings people in.
Right.
Like if I put on my slide, okay, if I come into my session, and I'm gonna give out, you know, the next tablet, whatever tablet it was, I guarantee all these seats would have been full. Because that's drawing people in. And, you know, whether they want to just PDUs or attend a session, chances are you're inviting them to listen to what you have to share and say. But primarily, they also are here because of the prize.
But in theory, you can do that with online training too, that people have got to be attentive to the very end because you're gonna, I don't know, even ask some trivia question or something. I guess in theory you could do that.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
It doesn't work as well.
It doesn't work that well because here's the thing. They want the device right there.
Yeah.
If I'm showing
Instant
it,
gratification.
right? If I'm showing it like Vanna White on Wheel of Fortune, right? And you have an opportunity to win, chances are you won't be there.
Yeah, but you can also do that with virtual things, because I have problems, like if you have a business requirements document, you can't pay people to read it before the meeting, which nobody ever reads them anyways. I gave out a $5 Starbucks card to whoever could find where I spilled coffee in BRD. Well, like, how do you spill coffee on a soft copy of a document? I said, trust me, there's spilled coffee in the document. Well, I hid it in the property section of the document, but I will tell you, I got a lot of people emailing me like, how'd you do this words? I can't find it. I'm looking for 20 minutes. I mean, you know, and then to the immediate gratification, it's just an electronic gift card that goes right out to them. So there are.
That's an excellent idea. I like that.
So whichever way is going to work for you to draw them in, that's what's important. But again,
Absolutely.
you have to make sure it's what you feel is best. Because again, it's an investment. Even though I'm giving you a gift card, it's an investment. Then I'm investing in you, and you're investing in me to provide you the information. So you want to make sure that information is, and, you know, worth the while of you coming. Because again, like you said, commuting, yeah, that can be a challenge. It's like almost like if someone was commuting and then they canceled the meeting, right? Or canceled the class. You're like, well, why didn't I get a notification on that? Yeah, that would put a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouths if they came distances and then they didn't get any type of notification to say it was canceled.
Sign on the board.
Yeah. Just sign your name, right? Just sign your name on the, you're like, what? Do you realize how long it took me to get here? Then that also discourages the person from attending, right? It's almost like the boy crying wolf, right? That's the last thing you need is to say, oh yeah, we're having class today, and then no one shows up. And that happens again and again, so you know, then no one really is gonna start showing up. So, other questions? Other questions?
I would just say that if you think people are being distracted nowadays, it could be because they're taking notes on their phone as well. So I've been taking notes on this, I've been tweeting them out, so it may look to you like I was just sitting here on my phone, but actually I have to take my notes. So just be aware of your target audience too, because it can be, you may not think they're paying attention, but they could be doing something else.
And you're not calling people out either, that's the other thing. So, you know, the reason why I was also trying to figure out names is from time to time, I'm calling your name to engage you, to see if you, not only if you're paying attention, but to involve you. Because if I don't involve you and you're just sitting there, it's like, man, I could have been doing something else. Because everybody wants to feel a part of something. So why not engage them to feel a part of something? Okay? The last thing, I'm gonna leave you with this quote, and the quote goes like this. Primarily, quote goes like this. So in your hands, you hold today. In your dreams, you hold tomorrow. But in your faith, you hold forever. Again, I thank you all for attending. Truly appreciate your time. Enjoy the swag. Again, thank you, gracias, mercy, and danke. We're gonna put it one more time too. So, for my information, ladies and gents, again, my wife and I, we are the managing partners of FlowJ Technology Solutions. If you wanted to, you could scan the barcode. It'll actually bring up our business card to your phone. So if you scan it right now, you can whip it up, you can scan it and then put a link to our business card.
Juan, we thank you, we thank Rochelle for sharing you with us today.
My pleasure.
Today was fabulous. I
Thank you.
really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the session. You know, one of my favorite things was just your show and tell, because I think we'll all go home and we're like, what was the session? Oh, the guy that worked for Microsoft. I mean, and then that makes you retain every bit. But it does, though. It brings it all together full circle and helps us to retain. So I like show and tell.